Hi, welcome to another podcast. Before we start, I have to tell you that there was an audio issue at the start, so I had to cut like 2 minutes. So I'm gonna get you instantly to the episode. I also know it is pretty long, so if you're interested on some parts, just check the timeline for it. Now, have fun. I don't know why, even though I'm having like 82% win rate now with like the when I was abusing the Samira Varus, like the deck was so scuffed that I was just playing and I was like, man, I need to abuse this deck before it gets hotfixed. So
Yeah, that's how I started playing it, and I was like, man, I should have played this deck sooner. Like, one, before there was only mirror matches being played, but two, just because that deck literally just like printed LP. There's not a single top player that picked that deck up and did not just gain like an absurd amount of LP.
Yeah, I saw nobody played it, by the way. I was playing like only a few mirrors. I was like playing it like something else, and like I was
like no meme. You guys actually have a fucking Disneyland lobby. Like, you guys are good. Don't get me wrong. It's not that you guys have bad players, but holy shit, you guys pick like the worst decks to play. I look over at your like top 12 players, and they're all like good players, but they're playing like some random overwhelm shit.
Shumpo like, does like whatever the fuck that man wants. That man is just like, yeah, I'm playing TF Nani again.
Like, I mean, really? Let me pull it up here on f.lrms. But you guys are always playing some wild shit, and then if you look at NA, it's always just like whatever we think the top deck is, that's what's climbing the most, because it's usually just like good players on that deck.
Yeah, I seriously fucking hate Varus, and I don't mean this in terms of like, oh, it's busted and I hate dealing with it. That deck is like so much what I hate to deal with. And it's like, I don't know, it feels like the exact same deck as Auction Varus, where it's just like, I'm gonna have my ludicrously broken 2-drop champion, I'm gonna have a shit ton of protection spells, and I'm gonna hope it works out. And like, that's the game plan. That's all I got. You're like, this is fun.
A different deck. Like, also like playing again, like playing also as the deck is kind of not fun, to be honest. Like, it's like fun to win, of course, because you enjoy that. But man, the play pattern was so the same. Like, just the thing. You always like, I don't know.
I got pushback against people who like liked the deck when I said this, but like, I honest to God think that deck is like 20% win rate if you don't draw Samira or Momentous Choice. Like, if you just don't draw those two cards, like, your deck is just a pile of shit.
I mean, I doubt. Like, it's like better, definitely, but
like, to be clear, I'm saying or. Like, if you draw 0 Samira, 0 Momentous Choice, I think the deck is just stone cold unplayable.
I think the deck's pretty bad. I think it's probably like a sub 50% deck for sure. Like, it probably easily goes to like tier 3, not tier 9, but it's easily like tier 5. But the thing is, like, that just doesn't happen because you just your mulligan odds on top of your predict odds on top of like worst case scenario. You like play a Varus and then you like start drawing fleeting cards and shit.
Yeah, I definitely am not gonna
say that about a lot of decks, right? Like, you can say that about like look at Samira. You're like, oh, if you don't draw like Samira or like Stylish Shot, it's like fucking weird.
There have been a lot of particularly Momentous Choice decks that were just like, if this deck draws Momentous Choice, it is just not the same deck.
People, I think, are like mulliganing in that mirror match wrong, which doesn't matter anymore because the mirror match is kind of like whatever. But I deadass just look for 3 Momentous and like, okay, you can't beat me. Like, any interaction we're about to have, I'm gonna win because I just simply have like triple Momentous and you don't.
I mean,
the mulligan people didn't know how to mulligan like at all. I think the deck, and like I was struggling when I picked up the deck, and I was like, man, this deck isn't that good when I picked it for the first time. But when I learned the mulligan, I was like, holy. Like,
to be fair, like at the end of Samira Varus's reign, I had the take that your mulligan strategy was, if it is not Momentous Choice or Samira, you kick it. If you have Samira, I think you could keep all out, but like, literally just look for the good cards. I'd probably keep the predictor. But
I don't even think that's true that you keep all out. I think it's just Samira and then you just like fish for like.
If you have Samira, I think all out's probably worth keeping. But
I think it depends on the matchup. It's fine. I would still rather have like a weapon, but it's all like probably good enough. Yeah. But yeah, you don't have Samira. It's like, there's a point where in the mirror I was like, oh, I'll like keep Varus because he's kind of cool and all this type of stuff. And then there was like 2 games in a row where my opponent had Samira and I didn't, and I was like, damn.
Oh yeah, you're
like,
fucked.
I was like, this isn't even a fucking game. Why am I keeping this fucking Varus card, man?
Yeah, I mean, Samira's like a little like fucked up, but like there's been a lot of Samira fucked up decks, and she hasn't even been out that long. But like, do you guys remember
it's
like
standard too? Not even like eternal.
Momentous Choice coming out and just like fucking everything. Where there was like Shelly bullshit. There was Lee Auction that like flipped Lee Sin on 5 for some fucking reason. Auction was, I mean, I remember a game where like I have a Lee Sin leveled attacking with Spell Shield and Overwhelm on 6. Because I tripled your Momentous Choice. My opponents are just dead to fucking rights. And you're like, what the fuck is this?
Even in the Samira Varus deck, there was a game I was playing with Tank, or not like against Tank, I was just like hanging out with Tank in a call. And I was like, dude, look at my screen. And he looks over. It's turn 4. I have flipped Varus, flip Samira.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know what to tell you, dude.
I mean,
this was definitely a game.
I did 20 damage today on turn 5 with Samira Varus. I was like,
I think it is.
This is such a fucking 1-mana cards should not exist. Just
I think that card was egregious.
Well, I remember you were one of the first people to put it in the Nami deck, right? Because Nami was like the biggest like culprit of Momentous Choice. You like Ionia Nami, and I think a lot of people were still playing like Wuju style and Twin. For the longest time, I think for probably like a week, people were like not playing Momentous. And then someone, I don't remember who it was, but someone was like really all in on this, like, no, you need to play like Momentous Choice. And people were like, oh shit, this is like double Shelly, this is double Nami, this is like everything these other cards do, but better.
I mean, okay, so I want to ask you guys' opinion. So Momentous Choice was like, I would be willing to call it like an actual dev mistake. Like, this card should not have existed at 1 mana.
Yeah.
Do you think it would even have been broken if it worked the way it was planned? Because it used to be, it was planned with playcast merge, that copies did not count as played. So it would have progressed Varus 1, it would have not triggered Shelly by itself, it would have only triggered Nami once, it would have only single count out an Auction Landmark. That card's still good, it's like still like an excellent combat trick of like +2 or +8. But like, is the card like reasonable?
Well, like, if you think about it, because, like, anytime you play this card, you're playing it with, like, playcast abuse, right? It's like you're playing with Nami, you're playing it with Shelly, you're playing with Lee Sin, you're playing it with, like Samira and Varus, right? Like, anytime you play this card, it's also in these, like, playcast changes, but it's like...
like...
I don't know. I feel like that's the only way you do play it. Like, you don't, like...
The only exception...
play it because it's, like,
the only exception would be Kane Aatrox, and, like, I do feel like Kane Aatrox was like interested in having this powerful combat trick, but like I didn't feel like the card was just like a blatant fuck up in that deck. Like every other Momentous Choice deck where it was just like, this is not acceptable.
I just think it's hard because like if you look in the past, I think every engine has been nerfed. Like the Nami engine got nerfed, Shelly hasn't been nerfed, but like the Nami engine got nerfed, Lee Sin got like rotated, so it doesn't matter. Like Varus probably should have gotten directly nerfed, and I think they even talked about like we're keeping an eye out on Samira and Varus directly, like stuff like that. And it's just like, should we just nerf every engine card around this shit, or do we just like not make 1 mana copying spells because of the playcast change? And
I mean,
it's pretty weird. I think it kind of reminds me of like the Crescendum problem, where you go and you like nerf every 2-drop that's like good, and then eventually you're just like, nah, let's just like take this card out of the game, you know?
Yeah, I find it really bizarre that like Varus almost picked, like he picked a fight with this problem where like, why does Momentous Choice not have Shapestone text? Like give a unit +1/+0 or +0/+1 if you've equipped a unit +2/+0 or +0/+2. Like you could have just rephrased this card to completely avoid this problem.
That's like the whole champion, right?
Well,
like about
so
Varus, right? About
once again, the like original way these cards worked, it didn't. So like the way they designed this card, that didn't work that way, because playcast change did not start off with that. So some of the other ones, like it makes sense that like the functionality would actually change from doubling to like do it twice. Like the Frostbite one doesn't even make sense. Like, are you gonna say like Frostbite? Well, I guess you could like write it on the card and just do it again, not copy me.
Yeah, go again.
So like,
go again. Exactly.
I mean, I feel like all these cards, like when they were designed, like it's completely fine because you expect the play cast merge to not do stuff. But I felt like we've run into a bunch of problems with these cards because like,
bro, Deadass, just get rid of the playcast change. That was the dumbest change in this fucking game.
Why? Like, I don't mind the actual change, but
I don't mind that then.
No, I think it created such a problem that just like didn't need to exist. Because like, what did it actually do? Like, what did it benefit? I think it made cards more clear. Like Zoe like made things more clear of like, oh, I see you play it versus like it resolves. But I think that could also just be a text change. Because like in Magic, like you just use the word cast for everything, and people just know because of how the rules work that cast means like when you put it on the stack. It doesn't have to actually resolve. Because if it needs to resolve, it'll say like when resolves or when enters the battlefield and stuff. I don't know.
Something that I would point to for like why I think this change was good was when you were playing Nami and you had Nami and Shelly's in play, it was absolute nonsense because they triggered at different times. And if you were particularly savvy at Nami, you could actually manipulate where buffs went by triggering Shelly's in the middle of your Namis.
Yeah.
And it was like, there's this thing that I complained about to people, which like the clearest cut example I have is the tiebreaker for strongest. So if you don't know, strongest goes power, health, cost, and then there is an invisible tiebreaker that is given to each card on creation that is a random number. It is just like the card's strength rating. So if your opponent has a Twisted Fate and a Zap Spray Fin in play, you do not know what gold card will hit. But if you play Leona and it stuns Twisted Fate, every time Leona will stun that Twisted Fate over that Zap. But if they play another Zap, you don't actually know which one it's going to hit. Although you do know that Twisted Fate is more likely to get hit because he has implied to have a high strength rating. If you're getting like annoyed at how like nonsensical and like long-winded this explanation is, this is an outrageous amount of complexity. Where if you know what's up, you can actually exploit this because it isn't just pure random. It is predictable and exploitable. The problem is, nobody gives a shit. It's like a wild amount of complexity for absolutely no point. And the like play cast change I felt like was the same way. It was complicated, but it didn't justify that complexity. It doesn't actually generate interesting decisions. It's just like a knowledge check, and if you can do like the mental calculus in time. And it's like, this isn't fun. Get rid of this. Like,
there are some things I miss, like being able to like put a spell on the stack and be like, oh, which one are you buffing? And it's like, okay, well, I know that it's gonna buff this thing, so let me play like this burst speed card first, and then like do this or like do something different in a way. And now you can't do that. And it makes it more just like, I hope this buffs like this one drop 1/1 instead of this one drop 1/1. You know.
I also think that they like did a change like to help things like Heimer looks and these things, right? Because they were feeling like very unsatisfying to play. You played 6 mana spell and like opponent just killed your unit, and I think that was one of the reasons why they did was the merge.
I also wonder why it's not consistent with some of the cards. Like, have you noticed like
Inferno?
some of the, like slow speeds cards? Yeah, well, Inferno and like Daybreak, like the slow speed.
Those are
Daybreak
old. Those are old play triggers.
Yeah,
like,
so I'm saying, like, why are they not, like, is it just, like, bugged? Like, why do they not work? Like, that's what tilts me.
So, I think the reason is there are cards that... So, if you put a Pirouette on the stack, your opponent does something, and you warning shot in response. Is the Pirouette plundered?
I would say no.
No.
Like, I actually don't know. It has never come up for me, so I have no clue. But, like, there's some weirdness with specifically Plunder. I think Daybreak could, like, all get clarified, because, like, you can't unget Daybreak. Like, you put the Sunburst on the stack, you're allowed to keep playing cards.
Yeah.
So, I think Daybreak could definitely get clarified. Plunder probably needs, like, a little bit of the edge cases cleaned up before it can get clarified. But if we're going to get rid of play triggers, we should get rid of all of them. Even if they, like, technically are Daybreak or Plunder triggers. So,
Dude, fuck it. Let's just make everything... Let's do the opposite. Let's just put everything on the stack at all the time. Fucking Bannerman trigger on the stack. You're about to flip a portal out because you drew a card? Put it on the stack. Let your opponent respond. It's like... Dude, this game would have to be such hell. That'd be a really funny, like, April Fool's Day. Where it's just like everything all of a sudden goes... You summon a unit, goes on the stack.
And the opponent denies your unit, you know, like
Yeah, opponent denies your unit now.
Bro, Karma mirrors would be wild. Karma, deny. Just get that shit out of here.
That would be a really funny.
Everyone's just like 3x deny, no exception. You just deny that karma.
negation as
Nope.
well. We play six denies.
Yeah, you play Nopified 2s to get rid of your opponent's cheap units too. It's fucking to get rid of everything.
Bro, Nopify would be cracked. It's like Samira, nope.
I don't think
Get
so.
outta here.
Oh my god, Nami, I don't think so, buddy.
Yeah, that would
Okay.
be a little messed up.
So what topics do we actually have for today?
Well, we did get a patch. How do people feel about the patch?
I've played like 5 games. I don't
Okay.
know. So
I have played
I've
10
watched a
games,
lot.
so I am twice
I
as
played like
informed.
5, yeah.
I am the most informed person here.
let's go.
I'm gonna just say, like, early meta is pretty cringe, but early meta is usually pretty cringe. So
It's just aggro, right? Like every early meta is just aggro.
it's aggro in like old decks, and it's like
Yeah.
a little sad.
Yeah,
I
I did
think-
play some like Aatrox Vein, and it was definitely just farming everything. I played against someone playing like Thralls. Like half my out of the 5 games I played, I think I hit Yordle games like 3 times, and I hit Thralls, and then some random shit once. And all the Yordle decks just seem really fucking bad. I don't know.
Yeah,
They seem alright.
I don't think Vandal Gunners is actually very good. The one like so I have some taste complaints with the patch. Mostly, I really fucking hate Samira Varus, and like the one Samira deck I enjoyed, like I think actually got taken out back. The other Samira decks are like kicking, and like I expect Samira Varus to remain relevant. I don't know if I would say good, but like I think it will at worst settle into a tier 2 spot. I don't think it is so bad that like it's just unplayable at this point. And I really don't enjoy that deck. I don't like playing it. I don't like playing against it. And I really would have preferred that Samira deck to get taken off back shot. Because I don't like it.
To be fair, I think the general consensus is like not with you. I feel like if you ask the average player, or like 90% of player base, like which do you hate playing against more, Samira Fizz or the Samira Varus?
Yeah.
Almost all of them would be like, the elusive deck that killed me on turn 6 and drew 10 million cards.
Yeah, I unfortunately tend to like the not very enjoyable decks, so I don't get catered to that frequently. But it's okay.
Show the match, show the mastery, show the champion mastery.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay. But that one's like a taste based. My other like actual criticism of the patch is I think the buffs are just like not
random.
Like,
I don't know.
I feel
like that's been the past long, like multiple patches have been like random buffs. Like maybe one buff is relevant, and then like all the other buffs just seem so ungodly.
I'm gonna go pull it up.
Because I feel like that's something people have complained about consistently now, is that they bring us patches, they nerf, they usually do a really good job with nerfing. They usually do an excellent job in nerfing the top tier decks and bringing them down. But then the buffs, like people just sit there and they like scratch their head and they're just like,
I mean, so
why?
I don't think it's that bad for buffs to miss, because like it's really scary to buff cards, because if you overshoot, stuff just gets real fucked real fast. So like I can understand being cautious with it, but it's just like, okay, Cygnus, Cloven Way, like I'd love to say I have high hopes for these, but I don't. You kind of took Nightfall out back with the rotation because they lost Doombeast, Unto Dusk, and Stygian, which were like literally the 3 best cards in the deck. Like, unironically, those are the best cards.
Tell me did they not lose Nocturne? I haven't seen a Nocturne.
No, Nocturne is in Standard, and there are no Fearsomes and like no Nightfalls in Shadow Ops. Like, you can't level the guy.
Oh, there's no like Miswraiths? Oh my lord.
Yeah, like what
is
is Nocturne doing here?
Like, is the Cygnus buff, by the way? I don't know if it's buff because I doubt it. I don't know if it's buff.
I have no clue.
I think the good thing on Cygnus was like you had 2 threats. Now the Cygnus push like 3 damage. You used to like push 5. Like, you know, like that's my issue. I don't know if it's buff actually on Cygnus.
It's hard to say. Targonian Telstones, I think this is a good change, but I don't think it does a whole lot. Like, it makes like a Telstone that was unplayable into a Telstone that was like reasonable. Azir Zera
region is like unplayable.
It's harsh, but it's harsh, you know. It's like you know, Pharaoh Telstones most likely like they're gonna usually go for the face, but they're gonna have some of other options. But you're gonna just, you know, if you want to mind the hash, you're gonna play this card now, I guess.
Yeah, I mean the issue is just like Targon sucks. Like Targon just sucks as a regen.
Azir and Nasus, like these buffs, I don't think do anything. Especially like, okay, what is the point of buffing Nasus when you like took SI out back and like they can't play Slay? Like SI just cannot play Slay because you literally rotated the package. So like, where has Nasus found a home that wasn't Shadow Isle's Slay stuff?
Mono Shurima.
Glorious Call? I mean, sick. I don't think this is going to do anything. Soul Harvest, this card was already good. I'm not excited about this buff. It might do something, but I'm not excited.
I don't get this buff. Like this guy is so good already, and like I don't know why they buffed it, but
Kagadrin, like sweet buff. It's not going to do anything.
Yeah, Priestess... that one they like made it very clear. It's like this is a fun buff. And it's like
Priestess of Desert Light. Is this better than bugged Priestess of Desert Light? Because I don't think the answer is yes. And bugged Priestess of Desert Light was still unplayable. Like,
I don't know. Have you seen Kuvira's tweets, dude? They're like, they said like this is unironically broken or something, and they tweeted out some Freljord Shurima give my guy.
Look, as much as I would love to live in that world, like we literally saw bugged Priestess of Desert Light, which was like far stronger than the card as printed, the card printed now, and that card was still unplayable. Like
like you could guarantee a turn 6 A soul, and it's just like didn't matter.
Yeah, it isn't good enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Mirror image, like okay, I'm excited to see if LeBlanc.
Like it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see if LeBlanc can go somewhere else. Bandle Gunners, I'd say this buff is exciting. I don't think it's panning out, but I will say it's exciting. Advanced.
I can see that the Demacia Butler seems decent on us. I think the champion strength, like once again, strategy is decent, but I don't think like anything else is like having potential, to be honest.
That's what Jordan's on, yeah. As you play the like 3-drop guy that gives you 4 Demacia, then you also get champion strength, and it's just like you kind of like swarm out. This deck has the potential to let you like just champion strength on 6 because you can just.
Also, but the Gunners with champion strength and Scout is so good because it's pushing 6 damage by itself. Yes,
my like fundamental problem with this is like this deck sounds good. What you're telling me sounds like powerful things that I'm excited to do. Nothing got buffed in that deck other than Bandle Gunners, and I feel like Bandle Gunners is pretty mid. So you're basically telling me like, hey, this mid card suddenly released, and now we can play this deck. And I'm like,
wait, like Caustic got nerfed though. Like also we also know the Tristana buff during beta season when Tristana got buff and instantly became 60% deck. Like I can see it being good actually because like we know that like this is also like some placebo just buff and like be okay play this and actually we're gonna find out it's good, right? Like
yeah.
I think like I don't think Bandle Gunner is like a mid card at all. I think it's like a fairly good card. I don't think it's like broken. I'm willing to call it a good card, but that's still true though. Is like you got one good card, and it's just like when you're building any deck, you put in your good cards first, right? Yeah. So it's like once you put in your good cards, if you only have 20 good cards in your deck, just don't play it. Like just don't play your deck. That's not a deck at that point. You have like that's not good. And what I said when it came down to the Bandle Gunners deck is kind of like what you're touching on is if it does not make it without the Bandle Gunners, like if it is not just a simply good aggro deck by itself, then like the deck's unplayable because you're not going to draw Bandle Gunners all the time. You're not going to draw it on like turn 5. All the people are like, oh, you can like turn 5 Bandle Gunners if you open with Teemo, 1 mana Poro, 1 mana Poro, 1 mana. Yeah, like okay, dude, sure. If you like empty out your entire hand with only 1 and 2 drops, then you could like possibly have a 5/5 on like turn 5. But that like just sounds horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to say that I'm like excited about Bandle Gunners, but I just really feel like the entirety of the nerfs and like Deathless Knight, Advanced Intel, and Retired Reckoner are like at most I'm like, neat card, and it's like there's nothing here that I feel like is going to land, and I'm excited to try. It's just like these are cards that like probably still stay in the collection manager, and it's like
I think Soul Harvest buff will matter the most because the card was already good.
Yeah, but like
it will matter the most, but
it's so depressing. And it's like I don't know. We see this a lot where they like buff already good cards, and it's like, why this one? Like the one that like stands out to me because it was recent was like Domination, where it was like we're gonna try and buff Evelyn package. Steam, cool idea. We haven't seen Steam before. That card was terrible. Buffing Domination.
Yeah. Because that's not like what the issue was, right? Like that wasn't the issue with Evelyn Dex. The issue with Evelyn Dex wasn't like oh, I drew my domination and it's not enough. It's like, no, your deck only worked when you drew domination. And it's like Soul Cleave, like, what does SI have as cards right now? There's like, you have Soul Cleave, like, what else? Like, that's like your best card in the entire region. And they're like, yeah, let's buff it. But it's like, we weren't playing SI because Soul Cleave wasn't enough. We weren't playing SI because you can't play a 3-card deck. Like, Soul Cleave is already good. What are the other 37 cards you expect me to put into this deck and make it playable?
Yeah. I'm not the biggest fan of the buffs, sweet.
The nerfs are sick, though. The
nerfs were sick.
The nerfs are great.
I got most of them, by the way. I got most of them, by the way. That's so funny with my prediction. But
okay, I think the only nerf that, in my opinion, is completely irrelevant is the Karma nerf, right? Like, that nerf is, like, beyond completely irrelevant.
To be honest, like,
irrelevant, it's gonna matter in some games, but yeah.
I feel like the Karma nerf was, like, almost... Like, it was almost a bad nerf to do from public relations standpoint alone. Where, like, you, like, nerf Karma and Reddit is just molding.
You should have just left it alone and not...
Yeah.
Like,
I
admittedly forgot about it.
I admittedly don't think Karma needs a nerf on power level. Like, Ruben basically said, like, y'all have 9 turns to kill Karma, and the fact that you can't do that is not my problem. And, like, unbelievably based. I think he's completely correct. And, like, you guys are just fucking up and, like, not killing Karma in time. The problem is, like... The problem is, like, people's frustration is, like, a valid reason to care. And the fact that, like, people are frustrated with Karma, unless you can solve that frustration, telling them, like, get good is not, like, the greatest solution. And I don't think we're really solving this. I don't think people are going to be happy with the nerf. And I think people are honestly going to be pissed off that, like, this was the nerf you gave them.
So I believe that's tough for some people, because some people won't be tempted to play Karma before turn 10, by the way.
Yeah.
I think it's going to help a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll, like, be helpful to most people because they won't into Karma. That's funny. That's like with the Caustic Rift nerf. It's like, I already wasn't playing getting Karma, and now you're just telling me, like, I'm valid. And it's like you're just helping other people also not play it in Karma. Like, Drisoth and I were like, cool, we played one anyways. Or, like, he didn't play any. So it's like, it doesn't matter to us, and now everyone else is playing the good deck. So here's my question about Karma, or, like, a take. Oh, go ahead, BaJAtak.
Well, it's like the caustic is like hitting like like the Bebe is like I think maybe Bebe can be like, even unplayable now. Honestly, I think
it got a lot worse.
I didn't think
the best thing was Bebe and like caustic or like Bebe plus coin plus caustic for 25 was the strongest thing that you could usually do, and that's impossible now.
Okay, you just have to get flow, which I think is like. I feel like if the nerf was only the Caustic Rift deck, because that deck is good at getting flow. That deck is not like Karma, where you're just like absolutely terrible at getting flow. I felt like the deck could pretty easily survive a Caustic Rift nerf. The problem is, like, I unironically thought Drum Solo was the best card in the deck. And Drum Solo, like, went from being a very good card to you'll play it.
Just play Formula. Just play Formula.
Yeah.
I mean, you need different names, so you're still going to play some Drum Solos, but, like, you're not excited about this card anymore like you used to be. So,
no.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than the, like, generic 5-mana draw 2s, but it's, like, probably worse than, like, Portal Palooza, probably worse than, like, just, like,
Formula, exactly. Like, Formula is the same region as well, right? Like, that's the thing. Like, it's
so
like effectively the same thing.
Yeah, so here's my question about this Karma, since we're on the topic of Karma. So a streamer, I guess I won't say their name because I don't want to be toxic. This person gets memed on a lot, so I assume you guys probably know who this is. They memed on a lot, and they had this take on their stream of, like, the fact that Ruben just says that Karma is unbeatable sometimes just because, like, oh, you didn't kill them before turn 10, so you deserve to lose. He said, sometimes you just, like, can't do that. Like, sometimes you don't have the hand that does that, or sometimes they just have, like, a really good hand that does that. That stops you from killing them before turn 10, and so you lose. And he said he has a problem that the fact that you just cannot beat Karma every game. You just can't beat Karma sometimes. And, like, on one hand, when you say it like that, you're like, well, sometimes you just can't beat this deck. You're like, oh, well, it's, like, really broken. But, like, you can say that about just about every tier 1 deck. Like, if you go, like, turn 2 Fizz with stylish shot, warding shot to stop your, like, mystic shot, like, you're gonna lose.
I have this.
And it's like,
I have
it's just because. Oh, sorry.
I have this soapbox about this that I feel like people don't get. Where, like, you usually see it when people get knocked out of top cut of a tournament that they felt very prepared for. And they'll be like, I felt good about my decks, I felt good about my plays, my opponent misplayed horribly, but they just drew well and like their deck like beat the tar out of me and like I just didn't get the hands. It was really unfortunate. And sometimes these posts are more introspective, sometimes they're more molding. But I just want to like tell these people like you can play the broken decks and like the broken decks will carry you kicking and screaming to a win. Like you can misplay horribly, it doesn't matter. They will drag your ass to a win. And like if you want to like jump on the pyre, be a martyr and like sit there and like I am going to play my brews and I'm going to play them to a high win rate. That's fine. Like I'm not sitting here telling you you have to play the broken decks. But if you don't play the broken decks, you're not going to get the free wins. And if you play the broken decks, you're going to get the free wins. This is the deal just offered to you by card games. And you can't decide you want something other than what's being offered. That is the options. So
Also the thing on Kama said, why I think it should have got hit because how much community hates it. I was also on the board because of that, because community just hates it. Honestly, like it's not fun to play against Karma Set, especially when they get to turn 10. But honestly, it's not fun to play as Karma Set till turn 10, to be honest. Like let's be honest as well. So like it's like something like you're doing like stupid thing on turn 10, but before that you're doing so weak things that I can see why they don't hate it. I get Ruben like why he didn't do it, right? Why they didn't hate the coin interaction. But I was on the board of coin interaction like nerf because I know how community hates it, right? So
I think like if you nerf it, it's purely for it's like Peak, right? Like Peak was never good.
Yeah.
Like no one was like, "Oh, dude, Peak's winning this." Like, okay, well, Peak did win a seasonal, but it's not like it's not like it's consistently topping or like a top ladder runner, 60% plus win rate. It's like people just simply hated playing against it, so they nerfed it. And like if they nerfed Karma Set, that's 100% what I would think because I like argued with this person in chat because I was like, hey, you know, like we just watched a Karma Setless like NA finals. You know, like we just watch these people like body these PNG decks. Like go learn from them instead of like complaining.
Yeah.
And this guy's like, well, that's different. You know, this is like ladder. You can't just pick decks or you can't ban Karma, whatever, blah blah blah. I was like, but you can. I was like, you can pick decks that beat Karma. I was like, you have Samira Fizz, Samira Varus. I was like, you have Daybreak. You have like all this shit. And I was like, now the issue is you don't play those. I was like, if you don't like to play those, that's fine, but at that point, it's on you. And this goes with what Michael was saying. It's like, if you are not playing a tier 1 deck, or if you are not playing, like, one of the best decks, then, like, that is on you at that point. You are actively choosing to play a bad matchup, and then you cannot complain when you play this bad matchup and then lose to it. Like, that's just not how it works. I mean, I guess you can complain, but, like, that's...
It's very bizarre to me when, like, people pretend that there's, like, something else there where it's like there isn't that much. So I would say most metas have a tier 1 deck that we just don't find, simply because like the card pool's pretty wide if someone just doesn't try it. I mean, like I think a good example like recently is like of just underexplored card interactions. Like I fucked around a bunch in High Masters with like playing Grumble Slug into Bar Knuckles, and like that start is cracked. The rest of Jack Set, terrible. But like going Grumble Slug into Bar Knuckles is absurd. And like, is there a Grumble Slug Bar Knuckles deck that wasn't Jack Set that we just never found? Maybe. I don't know. But like, I feel like most metas, there's going to be a deck out there somewhere that you could find.
Yeah.
But a lot of people kind of just like slap cards together that they want to play, and like they don't realize that you're probably going to end up with bad decks. Even really good deck builders usually end up with bad decks. And it's like, that's just life. If you don't play meta, like you're almost certainly going to take a win rate hit. And like, that's okay. If you'd rather play off meta and take a win rate hit, like more power to you. But that is the deal.
I don't want to hear you on Twitter saying you lost to this because you're playing it. Like, just accept that. But I think like, I also think that's kind of pointed to we just don't have a lot of time that matters, right? Like right now we have like first of all, I don't think enough people are in teams to explore the good decks. Like I think that's one of RPG strengths of why they always have these like really good decks is because they just have a team of like 10 or however many people they have that are just sitting there constantly scrimming and playing games and trying out random shit. Whereas like any solo player just like simply cannot do that. And also we just don't have much time because like you're gonna spend the first couple of days just like jamming ladder games to finding decks that could potentially be playable. And then you bring those potentially playable decks to your scrim group and you have like 8 days before the open, but you would probably have your decks ready like before the day of the open, right? So I typically want to have my decks at least like 2 to 3 days so I can like get those perfected like personally. So really you have this like very small window of like a 6 to 7 day like actual practice period to find the best decks. So then it's like, do you want to dedicate this time to finding decks that aren't found or have potential, or do you want to spend this like 6 to 7 days just refining what you already think is the best deck and then just hope that someone else doesn't find like a more broken deck or more broken lineup? Because there's just such little time, which like granted like on one hand is nice because I like the monthly patches. Like I don't want to go back to December time where we have 4 months between go hard nerfs, you know, like don't give me that. I enjoy this, but that's definitely one of the reasons why. And also I think it's just deck building's hard. So making the good decks is hard, man.
Yeah,
like,
I mean,
it's like Rebel Slug.
Keeping something
weapon on
secret is
2.
also like hard, you know. Like
Yeah.
keeping something secret is also very hard in this, especially. But it's doable, and I know it's doable because I've done it. Especially like when it was like EU Masters time, I think it was doable, especially when it was like a long season and we even were able to find some like meta breaking decks in our group. But yeah, it's definitely hard, and like just not worth it usually to go for the new actually breaking metas.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
like
the frustrating part, I think, for a lot of people who like want to play like off meta stuff is like, I'd point to Samira Varus. So if you remember, like 2 weeks ago, Samira Varus was like a joke of a deck. The lists were pretty bad, as it turned out, and so like the deck ended up being good, but like it's impossible to tell 2 weeks ago if Samira Varus was actually good and we hadn't found the list yet, or it was just bad, and we had found the list. It's really hard to tell. The problem is, if you are a deck builder, trademark, copyright, however you want to style it, you don't want to explore Samira Varus because it's playing Samira, that like horrifically broken deck champion, and it's playing Varus, which like has been deeply explored and isn't novel or interesting. And so you just don't deck build this. And it's like, if you want to succeed at deck building and playing like these off meta things, you gotta play the broken cards. Like, play the broken stuff doesn't end at decks. Like, you don't skip on Samira because she's everywhere. You play Samira because she's fucking broken. Like,
yeah, you try and find the broke cards and build around it. And I've done that multiple times. Like, I'm not a deck builder because I would just much rather play a deck and refine it. When someone brings me like a tier 9 deck, I try and help refine it to like, you know, a tier 3, tier 1 deck. That's my personal strength. I know that. I know I'm not a deck builder, but I try and help out where I know I'm best at. But the few times I have tried like building my own deck, I've been around cards that were just like known to be really broken, but didn't have cards. Like the Grumble Slug weapon interaction, like I played that on like day 0. Like during the beta, I played that and I was like, hey, the like early access thing. I played that and I like made a video on it like literally the day of expansion. Like as expansion came out, I was like, hey, look at this like sick thing you can do if you have like an attune unit on 2 with like barnacles. It's pretty fucking silly, but like there just wasn't enough to go with there. And same with like unleash spirits on the give all your
Unleashed.
Spirits Unleashed, So yeah, if you play like Spirits Unleashed, I was like, hey, this card's like insanely broken. You like I need like mini board wipe and then you buff all of your units everywhere +1/+1. I was like, this card's insane. But I just like could never find a deck that actively used that. And there's a bunch of stuff like that where I feel like if I had like more time or more people or something, it's probably there. Like you said, like is there a tier 1, you know, version of this Barnacles deck out there? Possibly, but like who's gonna spend the next 6 days to try and find it for the open? And it's pretty hard to convince people to spend 6 days potentially finding something good versus spending 6 days refining something that you know is already good.
And like it's very reasonable that like you spend a bunch of time on like one of these things and you just kind of end up with like a tier 1.5 deck. Like it's not bad. Like you did manage to find a good deck. Is it worth playing? no, and congratulations, you wasted 6 days. It's like
Exactly, and that's scary, right? Because if you're like trying to win an open and you're trying to be like a top competitor, like of course I'm speaking purely from like competitive stance. It's like that's a really tough decision to make. Like I would feel insanely bad if I spent 6 days and I brought my team's like, okay, like we've all been practicing, we've all been helping out. Like this is what I brought to the table, this is what I brought to the table, and then it gets to my turn in show and tell, and I'm like, I brought you Ari Bar Knuckles.
yeah.
Like, here you go. And then now my team's pissed at me, and I feel like shit. And I'm just like, okay, next time I'm just gonna play like the good decks. I'll just scrim the good decks with you guys.
Yeah, but that's the advantage of these like scrims, because you can maybe tie like one or two decks of like that. If you're like people, 10 people, they have 20 decks then. If you think about it.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're alone, you have only two. So definitely that's like the advantage of these scrim rules, that why they're able to find maybe the underdog of the date, and why they can capitalize on it.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of having multiple people, but also intuition. Because something that our team had or has is like really good intuition. Like I think early on, Michael was like, "Yeah, this like P&Z decks kind of suck," and then we're just like, "Yeah, they're like kind of whatever." But the issue is, and the thing that we kept saying was there was just simply not a good third deck. Like we were just like, "Yeah, we don't like this P&Z deck, but it's just better than like Ashnox or something, So we would play it. So we like had oh shit, sorry, I'm under tornado watch, so yeah. So we like found half of it. We just didn't have the people or the time to find like the other half, which was finding the actual good deck. I think a tornado just like kind of touched down at my city. Hold on. You guys can carry on the conversation.
Well,
I guess good. I don't live in America.
Yeah, we have tornadoes, unfortunately, but
we had one like last year, but it's fine. But otherwise, I do like the patch. I said I cannot. Honestly, I was so good at like predicting the patch. Honestly, I hit like most of the nerfs, and I even was on the Momentous train because I think that was something that's so easy to do to nerf the Varus deck.
yeah.
And I'm very happy that they did it, because I'm happy that it happened, because I was just abusing it. Like I have like 66 games and like 82% rate now currently. Yeah, I was just like, I guess I queue and get 3 LP. And I just said I made like 400 LP in like 1 day, so it was pretty good. Something that I'm very like surprised by is the Reckoning nerf, honestly. I didn't expect that at all, because I think Reckoning card is like the interesting one in the deck. And I think like this nerf is killing the card.
What is the interesting card?
Reckoning.
Reckoning. Okay, sorry. I did not catch what card you were talking about. I'm like, I have no clue what we're in. Yeah, I don't know. Reckoning is definitely like one of the more engaging parts of Ashnox to me. But like, I don't know. Ruben kind of talked about how like people kind of get held ransom by Reckoning, and it's like pretty frustrating. And I can definitely understand that if you were like, I don't know, not a deeply invested player, and you can't like see the Reckoning coming, and it's like, oh my god, this is so unpleasant to deal with. But I don't know. I enjoyed dealing with Reckoning. I didn't feel like it was backbreaking most of the time. I felt like it was playable. Mo was dealing with a tornado, and that's fair. He's just dipped. So
hope he's gonna be fine.
Yeah, I lived in Texas for a long time. Tornadoes are a thing. He'll probably be fine, but you do have to like go into the center of your house and shelter. So
yeah, I guess it's just for safety reasons. So
yeah,
I guess it's fine. But we're gonna continue this. But I'm super by the Iconic. I think like something Hadgas maybe more easier, but I can see also that like Iconic, it's not fun to play against, and especially like I can see that being an issue, and like they might be deciding to just cut it because some people just might hate it, as said on Reddit, and that's first decision. I love the DP exchanges. I think that was exactly what we wanted. I think.
Yeah.
Especially the Leona, like having prayer on turn 5 was just like the stupidest thing. Like what could happen, and it cannot happen anymore. As well, like Leona plus Sunhawk was usually the issue. Like Leona 5 leveled into Sunhawk on 6 was usually the issue as well of the deck.
Yeah.
And it's good fixed. I think Leona is still good. I think Sun Guardian is still good, but it's much weaker. So good nerfs, I would say.
This graphic is just missing Sun Guardian.
Yeah, and Momentous, but Momentous was added, I guess.
Yeah, Momentous was like pretty late, so not too weirded out by that one. But Leona just
like 3 hours after the patch release, I was like, I was streaming and I was like, holy, this deck is gonna take over. And then I end the stream and like full old Twitter is like, Momentous got nerfed, and I'm like, oh, I guess why not?
But yeah, I didn't mind Ashe that much. I felt like it was relatively engaging, but I don't know. There's some like the cards that I find frustrating with it are like Trifarian Assessor. I find Trifarian Assessor like pretty frustrating to deal with because like frequently like the only card in their deck that just like absolutely beats you over the head is Trifarian Assessor, and like usually there's not a ton you can do to play around it. Like I don't know, if you're playing a control deck, you try and like keep the board under control. But that's just like pretty normal. And sometimes your opponent will be like, I have 2 5-drops, play my buff Trifarian Assessor, draw 3 cards, play second Trifarian Assessor, draw 4 cards, and you're like, sure.
Assessor got buffed, by the way. Assessor got buffed by the mirror.
Yeah. I don't think that's
just like change.
Yeah, I don't think that's massive, simply because like I think Ashe Nox did overall get nerfed, but mirror image is a buff for that deck. So
Definitely. Especially about the Assassin's usual thing. I guess you don't want to like play like I think Have 9 the deck is horrific, so I wouldn't play it still. And like you don't want to double Omen Hog, but yeah. I do like the change a lot, honestly. The mirror image is good, like it can create the new decks as we talked already. But I don't mind that patch. I think it's the buffs as said was just like some random, but otherwise I like the patch. I think the nerfs were on point. Especially the Ambitious Ghosts also was a very good change because I think honestly when I played for the first time Ambitious Ghosts, I thought it's for just one round. And then like I found out it's not. And like
I really like this like kind of toning down of the ability of just these like permanent cost reductions. Because I definitely think there was bar meta, I think was the most egregious. Where like I remember I wrote a long thing about like Seraphine Ezreal, and one of the complaints that I had was like, you have this problem where your opponent has a bunch of cost reduction sitting around, where like your opponent's playing Seraphine Ezreal, they don't have a bar in play, and you're playing some control deck. They got 1 mana left, and you're like, okay, I can slam my big finisher so I can go to my turn and open a deck. And your opponent has discounted Ezreal, discounted Seraphine, and you die at burst on open. It's like, was I supposed to play around double discounted champions? Like, what am I supposed to do here? And it's just like this like pervasive, persistent cost reduction creates these like really stupid moments pretty frequently. So big fan of that. Ambitious Cultist, I think they very accidentally nerfed Varus Samira. I don't think this was in here to nerf Varus Samira, but they
good thing.
Yeah, it's a extra nerf to the deck.
Okay, it's actually like never matters because sometimes you just play like Cultist on far, then you like pass and hit Samira, and then you have Zema's spell to like flip the Samira, for example. That mattered a lot. As well, like yeah. I don't know. Ambitious Ghost is like it was not fun to play against, especially like opponent had Shermana, but he had the Cultist card, and they're like, okay, does he have like Mystic Shot? Does he have like this, and they're like,
I mean
it's a good change, definitely.
It could be anything. I mean, I don't know. I got Shareseized once with Varus Bow. That's a ride. But yeah, overall, it's kind of weird because I feel like the nerfs in patches, the nerfs are what matter. If the nerfs are bad, the patch is bad. If the nerfs are good, the patch is good. And the nerfs are good, so the patch is good. But the buffs are what's exciting. And I feel like this patch is good, but unexciting. And it's like, I mean, it's still good. I'm not going to sit here and be like, bad patch, Riot. Try again. But it just doesn't feel as good as it is. So
yeah, I think especially the Tarkon test, it's kind of like matter in the future when we're gonna get maybe the new Tarkon champion or something.
Yeah,
as well, it can matter in like Eternal because we're gonna have 2 opens in Eternal, so that's something also to keep eye on.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I'm still excited for Standard. I'm gonna obviously keep playing it, but why is Mom in chat?
I guess he's just on mobile, no? Isn't he?
Yeah, I guess from the bathroom, but yeah, I'm excited for the rest of Standard, but I'm also excited to like go back to Eternal and kind of like check in on what's happened because like we got this Samira card, like we got all kinds of stuff to try her with.
It's gonna be fun, man. Honestly, like we're gonna just switch and like it's gonna be like once again like new set, or constant because like so many new possibilities as well, like all decks and stuff. It's gonna be fun, honestly. I'm excited about it. Though like back-to-back like open, it's cool, but I'm kind of scared of, that because you can have some bad meta hit or something, and then you be like, I guess I don't make it to Worlds or something, that's can happen.
I mean, I might already be screwed on Worlds because of Open one, but
yeah, I guess as well. But like, yeah, it's so weird there. But yeah, I saw ladder mattering a lot. But they also kind of surprised that they actually giving their points for the first open, because I didn't expect that. But I guess they don't want to scam the people. But
yeah, I don't know. I
I'm
mean,
not
like,
fan of it, honestly. I don't know.
I was obviously a big proponent of not giving out Runeterra points. I don't know. The hard part for me is I don't know how much MMR actually affected a large scale of people. Because as I delved into like multiple people's runs, I became more and more convinced that I basically just got unlucky. Like normal run of the mill pairings unlucky.
Yeah, I don't think there was. I didn't ever believe there was an MMR. I think it was always random, I would say.
Well,
maybe if it's MMR, if like you silver the player as like more friend, But...
Yeah, the silver players proved that there was MMR. I just have become less and less convinced that there was MMR to a wide scale that affected players like us.
In Masters, yeah, I think Masters was just like random completely.
Or
because
pretty
I said
close,
I didn't.
So.
I think my MMR is pretty good because I'm always having like good ladder finishes and stuff. And like I said, I didn't meet any Masters, for example. Yeah. So I was just like, asking.
Majin had like, I mean, Majin's road was a little harder than yours, but it wasn't like some absurd one. And like, my path was by far the hardest that I've seen, and nobody else was like particularly close. And so that kind of implies to me that I just kind of got unlucky. And I mean, it sucks for me. I'm not happy about it, but like,
you got 1 point. What you mean?
Yeah, they shouldn't void Worlds points because I got unlucky.
But like Teddy also got unlucky, but I just get the Gasona one, so
yeah,
that's also kind of weird. So actually, if it was better to end 8-2 than 8-3, also that's kind of weird thing. Like you were like 8-2 and like you can just you could say to yourself, okay, I cannot back open top card because 9-2 doesn't make it, and then you got 1 point while like.
Yeah, I don't think
lost and not get anything.
That one's definitely a little weird, but I don't think that one's so bad. Simply because like, nobody knew that they would get a Worlds point for going 8-2. So like, if you were 8-2 and had the time to play, you did just play.
I guess, yeah.
So I think that one is fine, but it is definitely a little funny that like, I mean, Chiron the Mage, who like interacts with me a good amount on Twitter, he was like, yeah, I like was 8-0 and then lost 3 in a row, and had I just stopped, I would have gotten a Worlds point. So, yeah, Mo's pointing out in chat that we haven't heard about like punishments for cheaters. I am interested to see.
I think they haven't told us about it. I think
God,
they don't know what to do.
Please have clarification on the timer. My God, can we get clarification?
Yeah, we have no clue. What does it mean, like, playing for a time? Like, I have no clue. Like, if it's like for last minute and I don't know, I go to toilet and I win on time, is it like manipulation of time? I don't know. Like,
yeah, like by the reading of what is written, I feel like you're straight up never allowed to play for time. And like, the community was never really upset. There were some people who got tilted and heated and like got mad at someone who did it, but like in terms of community sentiment, everybody seemed fine with the like, I'm up 2 minutes in game 3 and I rope a minute. And it's like, people seemed okay with that one. I mean, the only person who seemed not okay with that is Trinithan. And I don't think Trinithan quite understands how timer works. But
yeah, that's the competitive. If it's game 3 and like it's like, okay, dude, it's your issue. Yeah. You should understand that this is about timer. You should be playing for it. Like, but the game 2, of course, was the issue. We talked about it last episode, but
game 2 was the like serious abuse cases, and just kind of generally, I think it's a little silly to not include the entire match timer when like you're deciding the match on timer. Essentially, I mean, it's kind of weird because like on the one hand, you do have 2 complete games that ended naturally, and so like it's kind of fair to say like we're only going to look at game 3 timer, but also like you are deciding the match. So
yeah, I think you explained it well in the video that you made. I think that was pretty cool. But Yeah, I hope they're just gonna change the timer completely, because I think that's something for work definitely. If now we have like repair the matchmaking and everything, then like I think this is another thing to point out. I don't know if they're gonna make it before next open, but
yeah,
they should just.
I just find it bizarre that like they didn't do chess clocks. It feels like every card game does like at least sort of chess clocks. I mean, I know like Magic Arena gives you it's a chess clock, but it also like has roping type stuff. Like you can't take. There's two Magic clients online. There's Magic Online and there's Magic Arena. In Magic Online, if you want to tank 8 minutes on your turn one, Magic Online will let you. I think the maximum amount of time you can spend on a single priority pass is 8 minutes, but you can do an 8-minute tank on turn one if you want. And there were some really complicated combo decks. Like I played Doomsday, if anybody's familiar with Magic, and I remember playing Magic Online and telling my opponent, I'm gonna be here a while, so if you want to like go get coffee or get some food, like I'm just gonna tank for a while. And the people were frequently like, oh, thanks for letting me know. And they just like went and got food, and I'm done with my tank 4 minutes later or something. Magic Arena doesn't let you do that. You have to keep the game moving. So I think it's very reasonable to do that, but just have a chess clock. Like, here's your time bank.
Yeah.
Spend it reasonably. Like, don't spend too much time in game one, or you'll time out in game three. And I don't know, you get some pushback. Like Aikato usually mentions that he's not a fan of how people have to think about clock in game one if it like could affect game three. But like, I don't know, if you give people reasonable amounts of time, clock kind of doesn't come up if you play at a reasonable pace. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, my experience
like the player that play like very fast, and like usually like I'm like, I just maybe sometimes play too fast that I'm like I make a plan, then I'm like, oh, I should have made maybe something different. But
yeah, I mean, I've definitely had the opinion that like almost every time that I start getting down to timer, I felt like my opponent was just playing unreasonably slow. So
yeah. Also prank change. What do you think about prank change? That's something we didn't talk about much.
I think it's pretty interesting. I don't know if it really matters, but I like that they're doing that type of stuff. That's the type of stuff that like really speaks volumes to me, that they like care about kind of this minutia that might matter. Like, was anyone sitting at this and like saying like, hey, you know what we need to do? Rebalance pranks. No, like some rioter was like, I got this problem and I'm gonna try and solve it.
Yeah.
So
that's a cool. That's definitely cool that they care about even these things, and especially when like most of bank package and like bank playstyle like actually rotated as well. So I like this a lot. I don't know if it's like buff to pay. I would say it's adjustment, just like it's not buff, it's not nerf.
yeah.
Just adjustment to it, but yeah. We also haven't talked about the Ruthless numbers, the infinite thingy, because there's some small drama on Twitter that like it's pay to win now if you think about it, because you can actually pay to win.
So I saw Majin's take. So for those that don't know, Ruthless Rumble gives a significant amount of trophies, which can help you get prime glories. Also, if you just like pay and immediately concede, you do get some number of trophies. I don't know how many.
No, you don't. You don't. You need to one win.
Oh, you do have to get one win? Okay. It's like normal rumbles where you can get trophies with 0 wins then, I guess.
Yeah, normal is 0. You can just insta surrender, but on these you need one win.
Okay. So the thing is, like, if you miss, you could just re-queue because the Ruthless Rumbles let you play as much as you want. So theoretically, you could pay a large sum of money and just play until you get some buys. So it's like pay to get buys? I mean, I don't know. I definitely think it's dubious because you're stepping into an area that is like very clearly pay to win. The thing is like
tiebreaker. It's also tiebreaker that can also matter as well.
The thing is like
because like it's percentage win and then it's tiebreak. Then this is tiebreaker and then the like the amount of trophies is tiebreaker and then ladders. And then it's still kind of that's in my opinion kind of crazy that like trophies are above the ladder to be honest, but
yeah,
I don't know.
But anyway, I'm not too worried about it simply because like in this particular situation, like are people really going to do this? First of all, like prime glories are not that hard to get if you're like a competitive player. And like I imagine it would be a lot of money if you couldn't get if you couldn't get them organically, and you're deciding like you're just gonna play a million Ruthless Rumbles, I imagine this is gonna be fairly expensive. I don't know how much they cost in terms of actual money.
$5. $5 will
$5.
enter.
So,
but if you get 4 wins, you get like back again. So
yeah, I mean, if someone like enters 3 Ruthless Rumbles when they should have been able to enter 1, I'm not too upset about that. I feel like the abuse cases is like someone entering 17 Ruthless Rumbles and going like 1-1 a lot. And like, I feel like this is prohibitively expensive. So,
yeah. I definitely hope that it's gonna be like only like now in like a late season, because if it's like on before the first open, like next season, for example, then it's abusable and you get like the second prime glory before, because it's possible to get only 1 prime glory before first open.
Yeah, I definitely would not like unlimited Ruthless Rumbles letting people get like multiple buys when it was difficult to get one. The other thing that I would say is I really dislike how the Rumble system like strongly pressures you to play every day and be super sweaty about it. Where it's like, I feel like it should be a little more chill and you can remain on track to get your buy. Like, I think you should be able to take the non-Ruthless Rumbles somewhat chill. I think you should have to play all the Ruthless Rumbles and do pretty well in the Ruthless Rumbles. But I think the first buy is too hard to get for the first open.
I had to like play every day and then like hope that I'm gonna get multiple wins in Ruthless, but I was like, man, I was struggling, for example, at the BO1, like the first like ever the Ambers like in this season. I was like struggling in that, and like I was like, holy, I'm not getting the 6 wins or how much it was. And then like I need to do well in this other Ambers, and I got like my buy like day before the open, and I was like, holy, I guess I have it now. But man, I played every day, you know, and like I couldn't miss anything, and like yeah, that felt kind of bad, honestly.
Yeah, I would like to see the buys made not so much easier, but like we should think about it in comparison to how much is available. Because if the trophies that are available make it very stringent, I think the best example of this was in the beta season. To get a Prime Glory for the first open, you were obligated to play every Rumble max wins except for 1, where you were allowed 1 less than max win.
Well, that was because it was delayed as well.
It was delayed. I think that one was by far the worst, and like it didn't matter because it was a beta open. But like that's the situation we really would like to not happen, where it's like it is possible to get your Prime Glory, but very hard. If you made it a little harder and you just couldn't get it, like that's also a solution. That's fine. It just is like excessively hard, but possible.
It's funny. I'm most asking about the ladders because we're gonna have last month is gonna be a 10-hour ladder as well, and they're gonna give the interprets to both of them. I do believe that a 10-hour ladder gonna be much harder because a lot of people are like, I don't care about this one, and I'm gonna play the 10-hour.
I think standard is gonna be much easier, which is the same thing you're saying, just phrased a little differently. The main reason that I think standard is going to be so much easier is I think all the competitive players are going to be grinding Eternals so that they have practice. And so, like, the people still in standard are not going to be super competitive.
Yeah, last month of standard is going to be so easy. But also, like, you're going to be in the disadvantage because, like, some people on EU has, like, 1.5k already OP because he played, like, 200 games with Samira Varus and with, like, 75% in it. And, like, you know, that's a lot of LP that you're going to gain. I think the same applies, like, to NA, even though NA isn't that much, like, with advantage. And when I look at back, it's also so like it's gonna be more grind on standard if you're like behind now. But if you have some LP, as for example, I have like 900 now, then I'm like kinda I'm just gonna, you know, during the eternal days, I'm gonna just play some standard games and I'm just gonna make it to like the top 8. I think I need for 5 points. So.
Yeah, EU has like a pretty big gap between 1 and 2, but other than that,
but you don't need first though. You need top 8, just like you don't need first, right?
Isn't it top 10?
Top 10, okay, top 10, I guess. Top 8 is the, you know, the titles. Yeah, top 8 is like the title. Yeah.
APAC is pretty much the same as well, so.
And I love the J1 badges, holy.
Oh,
if you check at the APAC and like the badges.
Oh man, I'm still mad about this. I got robbed of one of those badges.
Yeah. But... I have one and I'm happy.
Yeah. That was I don't know. That was the season that I like did everything that there was to do in ladder. I got first Masters in the world. I beat APAC and EU for it. And I finished rank 1, although you kind of just have to trust me that I finished rank 1 because it's actually very difficult to prove.
Yeah, nobody else trusts you.
Yeah.
But I grinded the most. Like it's usually I grinded even my rank 1 was when nobody cared, and it was after the Silver Action seasonal, and I just grinded the deck, and I just got like insane and number of LP.
Literally ending the season rank 1, I think is just like almost irrelevant. Because like every time it's like a week after seasonals, and like actually 80% of the competitive player base is just not on ladder. So like
EU Masters when EU Masters was the thing was like the hardest definitely to get like rank 1 or like the good rank finish. Then of course seasonal finish, but then it was like mostly the top 30. But
we obviously didn't have EU Masters, but I would definitely say the hardest time to play ladder on NA server, EU probably would still be thing, was the final scramble for placements on the final ranked ladder that counted for Worlds points. That was brutal because everybody's sitting there being like, oh, I just need a few more points. And like every ringer was sitting there grinding ladder. So
But the EU Master was so crazy, but it was also so fun, like because there were no meme decks, like everyone cared, and like it was good deck space actually.
All right, well, we're through our scheduled topics. We are completed enough time. Mo is presumably still safe from a tornado. Happy to answer questions if people have them.
Lobster, I don't know if I know, but I guess you doesn't know, but maybe chat somebody from chat doesn't know. There's a Lobster had the most insane round when he qualified for like first EU Masters. Like he got like 20 win streak exactly, and in the like last minute he got the LP that he needed.
That's incredible. The stories that I always liked hearing was there was 4 people from one country, and they would just like, whoop, whoop.
That was like fights. Usually Czechia was kind of obvious, but one time there was like Jeju, and we didn't know he's Czech, and Thomas got scammed, and
brutal.
That was on the Czechia incident exactly.
Someone's asking about.
We were always like me, Thomas, and Pokovac back in the time.
Someone's asking about Vayne Pantheon that I was playing on ladder. It's been going pretty well. I like the idea, so did well. I have to say, like, the thing that would suck to me about EU Masters that I wouldn't be a fan of is not knowing, like, if there was someone on ladder that we just didn't know the history of. So, like, the best example from NA would be, like, Ichiran Ramen. No one has a clue who this guy is. No one has ever been able to contact him, so we just don't know. And, like, could you imagine if, like, he's just, like, the highest rated Brazilian player? He's, like, a Brazilian player, and, like, who would get the bump?
Well, he's crazy not to be Brazilian. I think he's Brazilian. But it happened at Sett and Czechia because we didn't know about the Jeju, but it didn't usually happen because in the client you actually see what country you are from, and like client knows what country you are from. So
although I wonder if EU ever had some like weirdness where for EU Masters where like there's been a couple of cases. The one that I remember was Raptor, who played an EU seasonal top cut while being an American because his account was on the wrong server. And they were like, well, we'll let you play, but we're going to get your account transferred afterwards. But that was like literally the first seasonals, the like 5 wins to top cut one. So the best Reddit take I've seen this week, I believe the 0 mana infinite mana card was put out this week, and that was by far the best Reddit take I've ever seen. So, did you see this thing?
Yeah, I've seen it. That was your account, no?
No. This is a guy on Reddit who made this card, and I was like, this is so fucked.
I'm not going on Reddit, so I'm
it was absolutely horrible. But someone basically made a custom card, and it was essentially infinite mana. Like, it was a 0 mana card that gave you a coin and put itself in your hand. And then next turn, you have to discard a card for every time you play this. But like,
oh no.
Yeah, there was like, I mean, just like immediately, this card was put in Bilgewater by the creator, and like, you just play
Nami.
BB, and the card literally just kills your opponent.
Yeah,
Like,
it's just Nami, Shelly,
yeah.
I didn't know. I thought it was you, and I was like, "What? Why would you
No.
do that?" And I guess, yeah, it was Reddit. That makes sense then. I was like, "What the?"
Yeah, that was definitely a great Reddit moment. There was also like, I don't know, the creator like is trying to do something cool, and like I don't really like custom cards. I really hate them most of the time because people really like making interesting cards instead of cards that would be good to like have in the game, not in terms of like power level. But like pretty frequently people will do like these really wild designs that are super complicated, and if you just read them and think about them, they're like really interesting to think about. But like that's not what cards are. Cards are played, and like frequently these are just messes to play with, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, guys, like maybe we should try better.
Also, the cooking contest is still happening, and I just believe that it's gonna be Shroom Chaos in Shroomer. Like that's so obvious. I think like there's nothing other can win than like Shroom and Chaos. Let's be honest.
Shrima Car's probably the favorite meme of the community.
And it's gonna be new cat as well, so
I mean,
I'm
excited to see.
likely.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it develop, but I don't have the highest hopes. So.
Yeah, I wonder what is gonna be like in the future, because like, you know, how it's gonna be like actually voted, because we now just voting region. It's like, you know, you choose between two, but how it's gonna be in the future. There's gonna be like, I don't know if you know, but if there's gonna be like open, like that we can like input or something, or how it's gonna be.
I do not know, but
so I guess we'll find out.
It'll be interesting to see how they handle languages, because like any kind of open input thing is really hard to do in multiple languages. If you're doing like standard responses of like Freljord, Ionia, Demacia, it's like super easy to translate. But
Definitely.
Someone asked who EU number 1 was. I presume this is like not their actual account, but or like their actual account name. Do you have any clue who this person is?
I have no clue with that, honestly.
Okay. Well,
I have never seen him on ladder. I played against them, but I think I just remember the games from this season. I don't know.
Not here. Probably not here, Cross. I still need to do the full write-up, so I've been sluggish for a variety of reasons, but
yeah, I saw not only NA people get invited to the Mystery event, but in Batch Note it is.
I was surprised. So, I thought it would be, but okay.
It can be also somebody new. Like I also got like some matches like this season that I'm new to this game, so I think the actual new season is actually helping the game a lot, and like we getting some new people in.
Absolutely, I think we got a significant number of new players from rotation. I think a lot
also
of people
Hearthstone, also like so people like Hearthstone is like dying.
Yeah,
like competitive especially. So maybe like people going like, I guess Hearthstone isn't that worth it, so I'm gonna play Assunta on site or something, you know, and like.
Yeah,
I don't also know. Good thing to do.
I don't know if EU has the same experience, so I guess I'll ask you. But NA ladder, I felt like has never been healthier. Like competition is relatively high, significantly better than like I've felt it's been since like the LP changes. Queues are short. You see like good players semi-frequently. I feel like the ladder has never been healthier. So
yeah, queues are short. Like I still see so many questionable plays, but I guess it's just the nature of the ladder. I don't know. Like I saw meet some damage players still for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, it's hard to say. I guess ladder is fine, and like honestly, I'm playing on both NA and EU now, and like I don't see difference honestly. I just see like and it was more like on Samira Varus, for example, but that was only difference what I was like seeing. But otherwise, it felt the same. The games are competitive most of the times, but as I said, like we start having some questionable things, but that's just gonna happen always. But yeah, I'm fine with the ladder. I enjoy it. It's fun. I always like the ladder, so that's my thing, you know.
Yeah.
I saw Mogwai is Mogwai coming back is also I think huge for the game. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing someone basically say that I was like dragging Mogwai back when we were talking about play good cards. Mogwai's fine. Like, I think Mogwai is very aware that he is like sacrificing win rate for
Yeah.
Off meta
It's making
stuff.
like funny decks, like he's content creator. He's not competitive
Yeah.
player, so like
He also like some of the decks he makes are like completely fine. Like I think Swain Alawi, like probably not the strongest deck of all time, but like that deck's certainly competitive. Like it's not just a joke.
Exactly.
And like I think a lot of
decent.
content creators live in that space. Like Sunny, I don't think Sunny like cranks out competitive banger after competitive banger, but like he's trying to make cool videos. Some of his decks are like reasonable.
And it's also happening a lot. Also, I think Sunny also helping, like especially when he's doing the collabs with Ryan. I think also helping a lot to the community. And that's also banger, honestly.
Yeah.
I enjoy them a lot because it's also like to see what's happening in the house now because I used to play it, so it's also cool to see.
Raren. I always like seeing the Raren videos.
Mogwai was also always a good player, I think, like a decent player. Like
Mogwai is not bad. I mean, I don't think Mogwai is like. I think the only large content creator we have who is super competitive. Well, okay, there's two. I was thinking like very America centric, but I feel like we only have two super big content creators that are actually competitive players. That's Alan and Majin. And that's fine. Like most content creators are like pretty good at the game. And if you were like your average Legends of Runeterra player, like they will smoke you. Like Mogwai is like well above average. I think Mogwai is probably an above average Masters player. Sure, he's not like the high Masters competitive, try hard, sweaty people, but like he ain't bad. Like
so definitely agree definitely with that statement. Like I said, like I talked about it multiple times, but in first EU Masters we took Mogwai decks and we just made them better. We just got the meme decks, meme cats, and we just put the good cats in, and we just were able to make even meta. So like
I think Mogwai is like it's kind of bizarre because when you talk about content creators, I feel like you both have to like give them praises and like criticize them because like you'll run into people who are like, yo, my favorite content creator is the best player in the world. And you're like, okay, I need you to calm down. Your favorite content creator is not the best player in the world. And then you'll also hit these people who are like, oh, this person's a content creator, not a competitive player. They're just complete trash. And you're like, okay, I need you to calm down. Like this person is better than you think.
Well, so, I can't see like argument that Alan was like is one of the best players, but he's usually like taking him with bad decks, but definitely like Alan is one of the best players, I would say. Even
Alan's
now,
very good. Yeah.
Alan, I put in this category of just int at deck selection, and it's like there are so many players that would be an entire like just tier or 2 tiers above where they are as a player if they just simply played better decks. But to be fair, like Alan is definitely like one of the best players of all time. As we saw, he won Worlds, right? Like, what is the one tournament he showed up with real decks? It's like, oh, the Worlds qualifiers, and then he goes and he qualifies.
I feel like the Alan situation with Worlds was like really, really funny because I think Alan legitimately inted Worlds. However, everybody just believed him that Shellfolk was good and banned him.
Yeah.
And so he got to play good decks. And
like it's beating Silver Action, and like no, it doesn't.
He played it once.
It beats Silver Action.
He played one. I think it was one game, but it might have been
against
2
Ragnar.
games. Yeah,
against Ragnar, I think. And I think Ragnar screwed that game, so I think he lost to it. But
okay, well, I just remember. I remember that Alan only played it in one match. I don't know if he played 2 games and like went win lose with Shellfolk, or if he played 1 game and won with it. But I do know he played it in 1 match, and everybody else banned Shellfolk. And it's like, had you guys just played into Shellfolk, I think Alan would not have won Worlds.
I think like card gamers do that in general. I'd rather play against the demon I know than the one I don't, because like Michael won $1,000 tournament with fucking Ash Kindred, man.
Just screamed you. Like, what do you think I did before my Worlds? I just screamed. I played Day. I screamed against the deck that I was supposed to play against. That was Day before Worlds.
So this Ash Kindred tournament, literally,
Ash Kindred deck, man.
Bro, the best content from that entire thing was Ikato got knocked out in top 8. I don't know if he top 8'd or like got knocked out in Swiss or something. He was playing the event. Roji like pops into chat right before we're playing the finals, and Ikato begs this man to play into Ash Kindred. Just begs him. And Roji's like, I don't know, leaves chat to go play the match. Aikato pulls up my stream to watch the match. Literally in my lineup, it is Aatrox Vayne, Seraphine Bullshit, which I think was the deck title, and BaJAtak. I literally have the deck labeled BaJAtak. And Roji bans it. And I'm like, yeah, I mean...
Did you beat Aikato in that tournament?
No, I played Aikato in Swiss. He did not ban Ash Kindred, and Ash Kindred got O2'd incredibly hard. Like, that deck was dog shit.
Yeah, I remember I made a video on that, like, the next day. I was like, this card won $1,000, and it was, like, the shitty 2-mana Frostbite,
I have
deal 4 whatever card. And then I played the games with it. Dude, okay, this is YouTube spoiler for any of you guys, but I think I played like 20 games just so I could get 3 wins.
Yeah.
Like, just for the YouTube video. I sat there and played for hours trying to collect wins. And eventually I like moved over to normal queue and proceeded to again play for another like 5 games before finally getting like wins. And I was like, dude, what is this deck, man?
That deck was horrific. I have no clue how so many people banned it.
But I get it because Aikoji didn't actually know how it did good. But as said, like in Worlds, we had time before the Worlds actually to scrim against it, especially in.
Did they give you their deck list and stuff?
Yeah, in first Worlds it was like week before.
Yeah.
In this Worlds it was like day before we got the list, and I still like played against the decks that I was supposed to play like 20 times, and it was like, okay, this Jinx Demaster is maybe better than I thought. I guess I should ban it. For example, it was like the Champions Strike deck, right?
Yeah.
I was like, maybe I understand it, I should ban it. You know, that's something like.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think if you have time to scrim against it, there's no excuse. Players are just bad. But to be fair, it was also like first Worlds, and LR players were really fucking bad, and there was like no organization and all like scrim groups. I don't even know like how many scrim groups there really were for NA. Who was our NA players? We had Rajan, Aikato, Jordan. We had like 2 Brazilians or something.
We had 6. There was
Realkey,
yeah, who brought Swain, and I believe Swain went 0-6.
I feel like we had.
He passed into me.
And he passed with his rally up. Was that who that was?
Yeah, that was against me.
Is that the same person? Oh.
That one I think was legitimately just like, not like a mouse slip, because that's not what that is, but like,
no,
that was not an intentional.
Do you know why he did it? Did you hear the story on why it happened?
No.
So the guy doesn't play with his keyboard plugged in. He doesn't play with the keyboard.
Oh.
But BaJAtak, dumb fuck over here, says, good luck, have fun, before the game. So he plugs his keyboard in to respond to BaJAtak and says, good luck, have fun. Doesn't unplug his keyboard and hits spacebar.
Well, I didn't know that.
Via the masterful player.
BaJAtak's 10-head, dude. You type in good luck, have fun, won you that game. Deadass.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, and then he was like malding all over. But it was because the dude never plays with a keyboard plugged in. Because he like just presses buttons too much. And it happened to him at Worlds. It's fucking hilarious.
I didn't know that. I found it just now. Okay, this was cool. But I guess he made it out of the groups and I didn't, so.
Yeah.
Did he? Oh, what a
we were like, Jordan was 3-0, I was 1-2, he was 1-2, and the last person, Apex guy, was 1-2 as well, and he did.
NA had such a good Worlds run for the first Worlds. What happened?
I don't know.
I don't think I don't know. My take on this pretty quickly goes toxic to specific people, but
what happened?
We
went from having we had 2 people in top 8, or did we have 3? We had 30 people in top 8.
To put it kindly,
Realkey and Jordan.
Yeah.
To put it kindly, I do not believe the NA players brought the best decks.
Yeah. Or skill.
I believe we made unforced errors in deck selection.
I think we made unforced errors in games, because I remember Jordan, loved the guy, he's insanely good, but he just like purely punted his top 8 game. Or was it top 4? It was top 8 or top 4.
Wait,
he just,
are we talking about first Worlds or second Worlds?
Yeah, talking about second Worlds now, you know?
No, first Worlds.
Oh, first Worlds, America players did fine.
Yeah, they did good. I just don't know. Like, how did we not win that, man? Second Worlds, I don't want to talk about Second Worlds. We had 0 representatives in top 8.
One Realkey, right?
Oh, we had one?
It wasn't Realkey, it was...
No, Realkey. Mati Mayo.
Yeah, Mati.
Oh,
It was from my group. My group was only NA people that made it out.
Wow, I bet you feel real good about that, bunch.
Americas, but yeah, I guess I should not. But yeah,
that's insane. Next year though, next year's our year for real.
I mean, maybe we'll get Flop. Well, Floppy's going to Worlds. That's like actually just Worlds. So
and then, dude, maybe. So how many Worlds reps do we get from each region? Because there's 64 players total. I know there's a breakdown somewhere of like.
It's wait. We can do math. It's wait.
I mean, I think they just like straight up put it somewhere.
EU has one more because Aragon. We know that. 21. Every region gets 21, but EU gets 22. Because Aragon.
All right, because I was hoping it was the same like 666 for some reason, and R6 is just all RPG, and we're just fucking gaming. Like that, the 21 Americas is just gonna be like floppy card gamer.
I don't know.
21 sounds like so many people though, does it not? I feel like it's gonna be harder to qualify, and then you realize there's 21 slots, and it makes it sound like less.
Well, more like something you have to be thinking about. Like, Floppy cannot run into EU person in his tournament.
Yeah, because you guys would all O2 anyways. Like, you wouldn't even face him, man. Like,
yeah.
When was the last time an EU person won an NA tournament?
I think BB you should use it kind of often.
That was last week.
I played BB.
Talk to him, Micah.
I did play BB and I did beat him. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think BB like gave that match. I don't know. I don't remember that, but I think he.
Oh, okay.
I 2-0'd something. I don't recall what I 2-0'd.
Was it the surfing battle?
Maybe? No, surfing battle beat me.
Karma Targon.
He did not play Karma Targon.
Targon, Leona. Yeah.
Yes,
Leona.
That was what I 2-0'd. Yeah, I did play like 7 pit grits against him, which was hilarious.
Oh yeah, I remember you telling me that the Evil K.
Yeah, I like Evil K, the mixologist on like turn 4 because I needed to play a 4-4, and then like I literally ended the game at 7 after healing 15. Like this man did definitely lethal to me.
Yeah, I think Worlds. I'm so fucking excited for Worlds. Like I don't even think I'll qualify. I'm just so excited to see the format and see this like huge Swiss of like how do they say it was gonna be like a day or like 2-day Swiss event or something of 64 players and
I'm excited.
16, yeah, I'm very excited as well about it.
That sounds
hype.
I'm super excited to watch that. That sounds like so much higher quality and so much better content than like groups of 4 people and like having to go like what do you have to do to get out of that group of 4 like 2-2 and then have like better breakers or something? That sounds so lame. I'm ready to watch people sit there with good Swiss scores and pop off.
Okay, how can you get 2-2? What do you mean? 2-1 and it didn't get like usually. Oh, sometimes 1-2 in like group of 3. Or group of 4.
Yeah.
That's usually the thing that gets you. But
yeah, that's hype.
It's gonna be hype definitely. I hope I make it again because it'd be kinda cool honestly. You know, to make it for the third time, but
it's you and Jordan that are the only people that have made it to top cut of all of them. I mean, even just people who made it to Worlds qualifiers is pretty thin. I did it for Americas, and it was like 22 people that made it to both Worlds qualifiers. I don't know about you.
Really? Most of some people like us like stop playing, right? So yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, there was definitely.
I think I played the most games in the qualifiers though, so I have this title, and we're not gonna have any qualifiers anymore. So,
do you have the most wins?
I guess very likely yes, because I went 7-1 and 8-1. So
yeah, okay, probably then.
I have 16.
Oh, EU's cracked. You get to play more games.
Yeah, exactly. More practice.
That's cheating. That's cheating. You can't have that title, and they can't even combat for that title because we have to play less games than you. It sucks. Playing less games is a disadvantage.
I mean, unironically, I think the Americas system does a worse job at selecting.
Yeah, it was definitely
better players.
Because if we were,
dude, we seen fucking Donut, man. Like, what's that?
Donut brought Shurima Aatrox.
Like, look, man.
With
like, what?
Ballcocks.
Come on, man. Yeah. Couldn't have done better. Where is Donut in chat? Can we talk shit on this?
Smoosh Donut.
Donut's great.
Donut's good. I'm not gonna sit here and like dunk Donut for just being bad, but like my brother in Christ, we cannot sit here and be like, what happened with Americas? And then be like, you know what? Who I'm gonna do? The man who brought Shurima Aatrox. Like everybody else figured out that it was Demacia Aatrox, but no, we're playing Shurima. And yeah, like I remember everybody being like, Donut, what the fuck is this Ballcox? And he's like, it's good, trust. It was not good, and you should not have trusted.
I have never once trusted a card player that said those words to me. Anytime a card player says it's good trust, that just translates to don't let me do that.
Hey, it was important.
Please convince me to stop.
I believe the specific reasoning given was that it allowed you to play more weapons faster so that you could get to your Aatrox. Unfortunately, playing Aatrox was not particularly good because you didn't have any units in play.
Oh no.
So Demacia was very good because you played Aatrox on 6 every game because you didn't actually need to care about Darkened Staff. You just played the weapons that you wanted to play. And then you also had cracked weapons. So, like, it was great.
Yeah. I remember scrimming the Aatrox and I was like, holy shit, this is...
That
like,
shit was
I need to
fucked.
bring this. I need to bring this. I was like, yeah. I don't know if I was scrimming against you, Drisoth. Maybe it was mostly against Alana, I think. But yeah, it was like, we were like, holy, we found something.
Yeah, that champion
you
strength.
were the first to ever tell us, man.
Bro, can you imagine? Can you imagine if someone found acolytes? I'm pretty sure everybody looked at acolytes and was like, "That has to be a meme."
Everyone
We
except
don't
for
have time,
Conch.
right?
Everyone except for Conch. If Conch was at Worlds, NA would have won, 100%. No doubt in my mind. That man found fucking acolytes.
I mean, I do recall Prodigy being like, "This card's cracked," and I was like, "Prodigy, you're coping." Turns out Prodigy was not coping.
Yeah. It's really hard. I feel like a lot of people get mad at not just you specifically, but people in general, like the community, where they're like, oh, you said my deck was bad, and 2 weeks later it turned out it was good. It's like, dude, if we sat here and talked about and spent time on every fucking deck you bring or every deck you build, then like we won't have time to find the good ones because we'll be stuck on these. Like you bring us 19
I was
bad
saying
decks
that,
and then a
Donut,
good
yes.
one.
Okay. Proud of you, Donut. I'm not proud that you brought Ballcox, but I am proud of you that you brought Demacia.
But like Aneta was like, I told everyone that Varus Samira was good like weeks ago, and everyone told me it was bad. And it's like, yeah, man, like first of all, the builds 2 weeks ago were bad. Like they were not good. All of the builds sucked. But on top of that, like for every bad or good deck, most deck bringers, I'm not talking about Aneta specifically, but for most good deck bringers like Prodigy, he'll bring us one broken thing, like you were saying, acolytes, but he spews like 30 like random shit and coping shit before that. Like he gives you his 27th Shurima pile, and then he gives you acolytes, and then he'll give you like 38 Shurima piles, and then he'll give you like Gwyn Quinn.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's very hard to
my frustration is like people have this problem with like perspective where it's like you come to me with a deck and you tell me it's good. I think your deck is bad. There is no way for either of us to figure out who is right without spending time. And it's like there is no reason to prefer your viewpoint over mine. I am obscenely dismissive of innovation. You bring me something new, I will probably tell you that it's unplayable.
It's honestly a problem. I'm not gonna. Yeah. It's a problem.
So the thing is, like, I would agree with you that it's a problem, except like the community is wildly biased the other way, and I'm like the only person who's like, your deck is unplayable. Just play the busted shit, and it's like
getting Micah to practice something on our team is
absolutely the fuck not
hard. Yeah, it's unbelievably hard to get him to practice anything that's not like the best deck. Or that okay, it's not even that's the best deck. We've coined this term that's like stop calling decks the best deck and calling it like what looks like the best deck on stats, because that's what we do. Is we're like, oh well, Samira Fizz is like the best deck, and really what we're saying is like the stats make it look like the best deck, and like our personal experience make it look really, really good. But in reality, like the best deck probably is not found, and probably is not going to be found. So it's like getting him to play anything that is not Samira Fizz or like one of these top decks is so fucking hard in scrims. It's absolutely insane.
I have the most based lineup construction theory of play 3 good decks, and I do not give a flying fuck about how they have synergy.
Yeah. Which like is good because he stops a lot of coping and a lot of practice groups before. This practice group we're in now, our team doesn't have much coping outside of like fucking Jordan.
Dude, Jordan.
there's like not much coping. I cope with like individual cards. Jordan copes with like full on 40, and it's very like he'll bring a whole 40 and cope on it, and I'll cope on like 1 or 2 cards in a good deck. Like I'll look at Karma Sett and be like, you know what's really good in Karma Sett, like monkaS, you know, for an example or something, and it'd be like this one card is really good in Karma Sett. Source, trust me, bro.
Yeah.
And then it's just like Micah just says no. he hits you with Karma Deny line. Just goes no.
I love the word spread when it's supposed to me a deck and there's was no.
Yeah.
No.
That's by far my favorite voice line in all of Legends of Runeterra. Is when you deny something with Karma in play, she just says no.
No. Yeah.
No.
But yeah, I am obscenely harsh on deck ideas, so I don't know.
But we're working on it. We're working trust. We're working. We'll get them to practice.
I don't know. I wish people like Jordan were right. Where like deck building would make sense, and you're like, okay, these people are playing these like go wide bullshit decks, so I'm gonna play like She Who Wanders PNZ with Caustic Rift. The problem is like
that deck fucking blows.
Yeah, the problem is like this is the situation I would point to is like Tia Fizz versus Anivia way back when, because I love Tia Fizz and I love using it as an example. And people will be like, Anivia beats Tia Fizz. Why? You have healing, you have Avalanche, they are playing go wide smoke and can't buff anything.
Whale, yes.
Yeah.
Before Shelly, like, yeah.
You don't have Shelly, they can't buff anything, they don't have Nami.
All X1s.
The best way they can buff things is Suit Up, which like isn't super reliable and only buffs one unit. Anivia on paper beats the fucking tar out of Tia Fizz. Everything lines up correctly. That does not happen. Why? Because Tia Fizz was wildly overpowered and it did not give a flying fuck about your cards. And it was just like, oh, I'll just draw 8 million cards and kill you anyway. And you're like, I have Avalanches, I have Ravine. They're like, I have 3 times the number of cards you have.
Yeah.
What's it to you?
You see 1 Ravine for every like 5 threats I put down. So it's like, here's 5 threats. You have a Ravine? Okay, here's 5 more threats. Oh, you don't have second Ravine? Then it's like, I don't think they had... Ravine wasn't a card.
Ravine was something, yeah.
Yeah, Ravine wasn't a card. It was just Avalanche and Whale. So it's like, literally just... No, Ravine was a card. Ravine was certainly a card, because I played Ravine against Micah, and he beat my ass.
There was Ravine at parts of Tia Fizz's lifespan, but not other parts, because Shurima released and had landmarks.
Yeah, I remember playing against Micah in a tournament, and all say he's like, do you have this VOD of this time I smoked your ass in a tournament? I was like, no, I don't have this VOD from fucking 2.5 years ago when you cooked me in a tournament, man. And I remember slamming Ravine against him, and then he's like, Suit Up. I win. I was like, okay, cool. That's a very, very cool game we have here.
The two games that I remember from Tia Fizz, like very specifically, are honestly both against you, which is a little rude. But one of them was Aphelios Boxless versus Tia Fizz, which I posted a recreation of the board state on Twitter, which I will go find. Because this was like unbelievably fucked up. This was like the dumbest thing that Tia Fizz ever did.
That Tia Fizz was like... Yeah, I think the issue is like, so what basically Mike is trying to get at while he's scrolling was that you look at these decks that are supposed to be good and on paper are good into things, but in reality it just doesn't work because deck 1 is just like strictly too good and deck 2 is just bad, right? So that's what he's getting at. So like Jordan made this like She Who Wanders PNZ deck who's supposed to punish the really wide like the really wide Samira Fizz decks, but in reality that doesn't happen because your deck is just bad, it's not consistent, and then Samira Fizz just draws too many cards and kills you anyways.
Anyways, this is the board state that I remember having against Mo. And Mo decided to attack here, and it lost him the game. And like, the fact that I don't think you're allowed to attack here is just fucked. Like, you're sitting here with...
he's played nothing, by the way, the whole game. He passed for 4 turns, has like cards in hand, passed for 4 turns, and I'm like, what do you do?
Yeah,
like,
your opponent's at 18, and you have 14 damage in play. Like, do you just attack your opponent down to 4? Like, are you seriously going to take this pass? And like, the answer kind of just had to be yes, because if you didn't take the pass and you attack, and your opponent's just like, pick a card, TF blue card, untap, rummage. TF is flipped, you're dead. And you're like, oh, cool.
Yep, I lost. I lost the game on the spot with my opponent passing for 4 turns and me like putting him down to 4. It was like, the most absurd thing ever.
Yeah, the most fucked up part about this game is like this game is fucked up. What happened to Mo is like not an acceptable thing. The fucked up part is if TFFizz's hand is bricked, they can just pretend to do this. They can sit there and
Samira right now.
Yeah, you just death stare your opponent. You're like, are you willing to lose the game?
You know?
Yeah, that's what you do right now, Samira. You're just like, yeah, are you really gonna play? Like, anytime you have the attack token ever, turn 2, turn 4, turn 3, like anything, I'm just gonna sit here and go, no, I'm gonna pass, because if you try and play LeBlanc, if you try and play, you know, any card in your deck, I'm gonna play Samira, pull it, pump it with Momentous or something, and it's just like you literally cannot play a card right now. And it's like, do I actually have the Samira? No. But I'm going to buy myself time to draw into the Samira. And it's like, so fucked. And the most fucked thing is this isn't even the, like, most fucked I've ever been against specifically Drisoth and specifically TFFizz. There was a time where he did almost the same thing to me. I was on... I don't think Throz was a thing. Was it Anivia?
You were playing... This is the other one I remember. You were playing... Watcher combo, TLC.
Yeah, that's right. I was gonna say I never play Anivia, so it was Watcher combo. And same fucking thing. This guy goes pass. I think it's like turn 5. It's like turn 4, turn 5, something like stupid. He goes play a TF, and I'm like, okay, well I have to be proactive about it. Here's a ravine. He goes play the suit up I just drew, level TF in 1 turn, like fucking kill you. And I was just like. Like I literally just sat there for like 5 turns, tried to interact 1 time, got punished and died. And it was just like, man, this deck is ridiculous. My bad. That's like the most fucked up decks in the history of LOR have all been decks where you try to interact with them and they say like, oh, you want to do something? Okay, you lost. Like TK Rocco was one of the most hated decks of all time for that same reason, where it's like anytime you actively tried to interact with them, they would punish you for it, and then you would just like advance their game plan. And it was just the most fucked thing in the world.
All right, well,
my first was like that, and like I'm happy that it's gone. I would say it's gone.
What, TK Rocco?
Oh, TFFizz.
Yeah.
TFFizz, like
Junior, dude.
Yeah, as much as
I've accidentally called it TFFizz.
I mean, it actually was like as much as people originally did the comparison on power level, which I don't think Samira Fizz really deserved. Although I do think Samira Fizz was a stronger deck than TFFizz. It's just TFFizz fucking gapped the second best deck by like just an outrageous degree. I hope
that we agreed on Twitter. That was like, we think that like in the last patch it could be like be on your patch, and we don't know how Samira is actually good because maybe she's much weaker now. Even though I think still she's like good, but we agreed on like that Samira is the tier 0 champion.
Yes.
And a top 5 decks is just Samira deck probably.
Yeah, I don't even know if that changed.
Top 5. It was like out of the top 8, 7 of them were Samira decks, and then the one deck that wasn't was just Diana Leona, which is a Samira deck that they just like weren't playing Samira because they wanted to be quirky and cool and not like the other decks.
I mean, realistically, those people were testing it for a tournament, and they were like, "I'm gonna play my Samira somewhere else. So I gotta learn how to play with Diana in my deck." But yeah, I don't even know if Samira has been dethroned as the best champion in the game. So.
I don't think so, but like the Samira face is definitely dethroned, I guess, the best deck.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna see like different Samira powers popping up. Maybe the decks that we haven't seen in the past because they were just like, I guess I can play Samira face, I guess I can play Samira Varus. Now we're gonna play this thinking. Maybe it's gonna be the Samira Caitlyn even, you know? Like, you know, just abuse the challenger.
Actually, I thought about playing Samira Caitlyn because people are playing those like Yordle piles. They're playing like Bandle Soup. And what's like good into Bandle Soup, it's like just hard removal spells. And so
Flash Bombs. Flash Bombs are so good against Owlcats.
So yeah, you just play like Samira Caitlyn now, and you're just like, okay, quick attack challenge something like Flash Bomb.
Quick attack challenger is so just no, you can use Samira as just like challenger printer because 1 mana give challenger is good. Yeah. Like that's a good card. And if you're able to print it multiple times, as well like still tightening, you know, having the quick attacks and using that way, that's amazing.
All right. Well, was fun, but we are way over time, so I'm going to call it
longest podcasty ever.
That's gonna be a long video.